Morning everyone. So today we are going to be learning our last lesson in the chapter, which is chapter 8. So here's our table of contents. Okay. And in lesson 8, we are going to be dividing decimals by decimals. So in lesson 7, we divided decimals by whole numbers, and today we're going to learn how to divide decimals by decimals. So we have our focus notes, our questions, and our notes column. Okay, so first thing we're going to do when we're dividing decimals by decimals is we're going to multiply the divisor and the dividend so that the divisor is going to be a whole number. So let's write down what that's going to look like. So here I just wrote the question, what to do first, and we're going to write multiply the divisor so that it is a whole number. Okay, so once we multiply the divisor by 10, for example, because we're always going to be multiplying it by 10, once we multiply it by 10, we'll get a whole number, and then we'll be dividing a decimal by a whole number just like we did in lesson 7. So this isn't much different, we're just adding one step to it. So our first example will be to find 1.71 divided by 0.9. Okay, so let's write that over here. 1.71 divided by 0.9. And I'm going to change how this looks. So it can also look like 1.71 over 0.9. Okay. In this problem, this is going to be my divisor, and this is the dividend. Okay, so we're going to multiply the divisor by 10 to get a whole number, but since we're also multiplying the divisor by 10, we need to multiply the dividend by 10 so that we keep the ratio of the problem the same. So I'm going to multiply 0.9 by 10, and then I'm also going to multiply 1.71 by 10. Okay, so once I multiply those both by 10, this is what I'm going to end up with. Okay, so 0.9 times 10 is 9, so we got our whole number, and 1.71 times 10 is 17.1. So now we're just doing what we did in lesson 7, which is multiplying a decimal by a whole, dividing a decimal by a whole number. And really quickly, if we were to estimate, okay, we've also practiced estimating. So if we were to estimate this, I'm going to say 1.71 is about 2, and 0.9 is about 1. So if I had to divide 2 divided by 1, I would get about 2. So let's see if our answer is also about 2. Okay, so I'm going to remember these things on the side here. D, M, S, C, B. D stands for divide, M stands for multiply, S stands for subtract, and then C stands for check, and our last one, bring down. So we're going to follow those steps. We're going to repeat those steps when long dividing. So first I'm going to divide. 9 goes into 1, 0 times. And, sorry, before we do anything, we also need to place our decimal point. Okay, so here's our decimal point. So I'm going to put it right above in the same spot in my quotient. Okay, so my decimal point is going to go there. So do that on your paper. Make sure to do that before we do anything else. So now, 9 goes into 1 0 times. So I'm going to put a 0 up here. I'm going to multiply. 9 times 0 is 0. Now I can subtract. 1 minus 0 is 1. And I'm going to check. Is 1 less than 9? And it is. So I'm going to give myself a little check mark. Now I can bring down the next number. Okay. How many times does 9 go into 17? 9 goes into 17 only 1 time. Okay, now I can multiply again. So 9 times 1 is 9. I'm going to subtract. 17 minus 9 is 8. Okay, and I'm going to check. Is 8 less than 9? And it is. So with our check, we're checking to make sure we did our subtraction, our multiplication, and our division correct. And since 8 is less than 9, we did all of that correct. If this number was larger than this number, then we would have to backtrack and figure out what mistake we made. Okay, now I can do the last step, bring down. So I'm going to bring down this 1. How many times does 9 go into 81? Well, I know that 9 times 9 is 81. So 9 goes into 81 at least 9 times. And then multiply. 9 times 9 is 81. Subtract. And check. Is 0 less than 9? It is. Give myself a check mark, and I have nothing left to bring down, so I'm done with that problem. So our answer is 1.9. And that is very close to our estimate. So we know that we found the correct answer. Okay. So now let's try another example. So we are going to find 52 divided by 0.4. Okay, so in this problem we already have a whole number, but the problem is that our divisor is a decimal, so we still need to multiply by 10. Okay, so let's rewrite how this looks. So this can also look like 52 over 0.4. And we need to make sure to multiply. Okay, so when I set it up into my long division format, I'm going to multiply 0.4 by 10. And I'm going to multiply 52 by 10. So once I do that, I'm going to have 4 and 520, okay? So you might be thinking, well, there's no decimal here, so where do we put our decimal? But actually, if we look at this little wall over here of invisible math, it actually shows us right here that 10 is the same as 10.0. So that means there is a decimal point at the end of each integer, okay? So we can put a decimal behind here, because we know that each integer has a decimal behind it, okay? So each whole number is going to have decimal. So I'm going to put my decimal in the same spot right there. Okay, so now I can start dividing. So I'm going to use these same steps that are up here. First I'm going to divide, multiply, subtract, check, and bring down. So 4 goes into 5 one time. I'm going to multiply. 4 times 1 is 4. Subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1. And then I'm going to check. Is 1 less than 4? And it is. So I'll give myself a check mark. Now I'm going to bring down. Okay. How many times does 4 go into 12? 4 goes into 12 3 times. Because 4, 8, 12. Okay, so now I multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. Subtract. I get 0. Okay, I'm going to check. Is 0 less than 4? And it is. Give myself a check mark and bring that 0 down. Alright, now how many times does 4 go into 0? Well, 4 goes into 0 0 times. And put a 0 here. 4 times 0 is just 0. Subtract, and I get 0. Okay? I could keep going. I could add a 0 right here. But I know if I brought this down, it would still be 0. And 4 would go into 0 0 times. So my answer is 130. Okay, I'm going to put my answer up here. 52 divided by 0.4 is 130. Okay, you can always check your work with a calculator as well. So we're going to do one last problem. Okay, this problem is going to be to find, let's see. So find 0.009 divided by 0.18. Okay, I'm going to rewrite how that looks. So we have 0.009 over 0.18. Again, I'm going to change how that looks so it's in long division format. So I have my divisor, my denominator on the outside, and my numerator, also called the dividend, on the inside. Okay, so I could multiply this by 10, but if I multiplied it by 10, I would get 1.8. Oops. Fix that there. So if I multiply 10 times 0.18, I'll get 1.8. And so this number is still a decimal. So I want to multiply this by a number so that it'll become a whole number. To do that, I need to multiply this by 100. And since I'm multiplying this by 100, I also need to multiply our dividend by 100. Okay, so when I multiply by 100, I'm going to get 18 times, or 18 and 0.9. I'll put a 0 over here. Again, I'm going to place my decimal point. Okay, now we can divide by a whole number. So now we're just doing what we did in lesson 7. Okay, so let's use our steps D, M, S, C, B. Okay, so 18 goes into 0, 0 times. 18 times 0 is 0. Subtract, we get 0. We're going to do our check. Is 0 less than 18? And it is. Now we can bring down. 18 goes into 9, 0 times. So 18 times 0 is 0. We're going to subtract and check. Is 9 less than 18? And it is. So now we're going to bring down our next number, which we get 90. 18 goes into 90 5 times. Okay, we can do a little check on this side. So 18 times 5, 5 times 8 is 40, 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 90. Okay, 18 times 5 is 90, subtract, we get 0. And that's our answer. So it looks like we were caught by the bell. See you guys next time.